Welcome to the Middle Tech Spotlight series, where we highlight entrepreneurs, investors, and ecosystem supporters that are building our startup ecosystem. We've been talking to founders consistently over the last 4 years, and we want to use this series to keep tabs on the companies being built here. Today, we're talking with TJ Barnett of Full Court Social, being built here in Lexington, Kentucky. Full Court Social is a full-service social media agency that creates, curates, and manages content for all types of brands. Before diving in, we'd like to highlight the sponsors that make all of this possible. Middle Tech is presented by KY Innovation, the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development's Office of Entrepreneurship. KY Innovation is currently accepting applications for its SBIR STTR Matching Funds program. Kentucky's program is a national trendsetter for providing critical, non-dilutive capital to support the high-tech research, development, and commercialization of novel ideas within the Commonwealth. SBIR matching funds have directly contributed to the creation of more than 700 jobs, more than 200 patents filed, and more than $160 million raised in private follow-on funding into dozens of companies relocating to the state. The matching funds application window is open through April 24th. To apply and learn more about support services for companies that want to explore SBIR STTR grants and contracts, visit kyinnovation.com/SBIR. All right, let's get into it. We are here with TJ Barnett, who is also a member of the Middle Tech team, one of the partners of Middle Tech. So it's awesome to be able to come on here and highlight one of our own.
Yeah, man, it's funny because we've been doing this for a while, and I just never thought, well, let's go ahead and get full court on the episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I guess full court kind of came out of the experience that you garnered from the NBA, the NFL, your time at Middle Tech. So let's just kick off the episode by telling us high level what for it is, and then we'll dive into some of the details around it.
Yeah, so Full Court, like you said, full service agency, highly focused on social media, creating content, curating it, managing the whole process from, like I said, creating to organizing, publishing, engaging, managing DMs, everything you can think of with with a social media marketing agency, we do to the highest extent. And so Full Court really, it kind of came from, like you said, I worked at the NBA, worked at the NFL, came on to Middle Tech in 2020. Where I really try to understand the operations behind creating a content machine. And so being able to take those experiences and realizing, if I can build a team that can replicate what I was doing and what the team was doing at the big level companies, local companies around here, and then potentially in the future, larger agencies, I would be able to create a service that a lot of people really are lacking. A lot of brands understand you have to be active on social, but they understand how to be active on social. And a lot of brands also get confused about, let's get one great post that does really well, and then what do you do after that, right? And that's where I've seen a lot of people when I talk to them say, social strategy can only go so far in their minds because they're so worried about, running the company, operations, sales. And so, yeah, I think Full Court was really started just out of that idea to be able to create a machine for people that they can utilize. After that, I think back in October of 2021 is kind of when everything got kicked off with Chase Fairchild. My guy, shout out Chase with Bolt Marketing. He was my first freelance brand that I worked with was Bolt, managed their social, and just decided to start a company after that as a result of everything I just talked about. So super excited. We've been in business for about a year and a half now. And we've seen a lot of growth, especially this year. So a lot of exciting times.
So from your experience at the NFL and the NBA, what were some of your biggest takeaways that you're applying to Full Court?
Yeah, so for the NBA, it was the content machine, right? I walked in, had no idea what I was doing. At that point, the only experience I had on social was with Fuji. Got laid off, a bigger layoff. But when I was at Fuji, it was more just trying to create a marketing strategy, trying to understand really what social media was and how we can utilize it for the giveaways, for our brand. Just this quick caveat, one of my favorite memories from Fuji that I'll always think about is we did a giveaway of I think we were doing a pie giveaway, just a random social media following giveaway. And, you have to tweet out the emoji, and I tweeted out a pot sticker. So I had a bunch of people saying, I want some pie with a pot sticker emoji. So one of my first mistakes with social. But yeah, with the, we had this, there's probably 1,000 replies with pot stickers asking for pies.
That was a rough audience. That was yeah.
I think that
was a really weird group of people that followed Fuji and wanted to be on Fuji.
Very dedicated audience. I will say that though.
Very engaged.
But yeah, from the NBA, like I said, a content machine, where I mean, guys, when I tell you like there's an average of 8 games a night for 115 nights. Then you have the playoffs on top of that. I mean, just to see kind of the flow in which people created content, the way they got it out, that really helped me understand like, okay, like to have a legit operation, you have to, you know, do this, and this when it comes to creating content. Obviously, I don't create the content at that scale, but just being able to understand that was huge. And then the NFL came around. I really got to understand what the operations look like behind managing social media channels for a massive brand. With the NBA, I was like WNBA, G League, 2K, and fantasy. With the NFL, I was at NFL, so I had immediately went from about an audience of 1 million people right to about an audience of 100 million people. So that was being able to understand the strategy behind each channel and kind of what performs on each, was really big with the NFL. And then again, being able to understand operationally, how do I manage a group of 15 people that are directly contributing to NFL Network, and the checkdown. So those two really helped me kind of frame that.
So you mentioned that you've been running full court for what, around a year now?
About a year and a half. Yeah.
Year and a half, which is awesome. So talk a little bit about getting the business to the stage it's at now. So I know when you were early on, you're still working at the NFL at the time,
Mhm.
and you kind of had this cool idea of trying to make the work you're doing at the NFL be part of what you're doing at full court. So just walk us through how you started the business, and then take us up to where it is today, the current state of the business.
Yeah, so basically, like I said, I started out with a freelance kind of idea, and that's where if you go from the first like year of full court, it was really just me being a freelancer, right? I think that's kind of what changes from the when we first started in October 21 to December of 22. I was a freelancer. I was just managing social media channels, trying to understand like what works, how do I communicate with brands and these people, to be able to portray their message via social. And so, obviously starting with Chase and Bolt, um, just the idea was, let's turn this freelance idea into a business. And so back in the beginning of this year is where everything changed. I hired on 3 or 4 contractors. Shout out Laura, Ethan, and Lakia and Emily. That when I got the contractors, things changed. Last year we had about 5 to 6 brands at any given time throughout the year. And it was just me creating the content and doing the strategies, doing the publishing, doing the engaging, while at the same time working full time for the NFL and then doing middle tech stuff as well. It was crazy. I'm not really sure how I made it through last year. But we got to this year, and like I said, changing operationally how things flow in the business, have account manager in Ethan's sense, being able to have him publish, post, and engage and all that stuff. Having Laura, Emily, and Lakia create the graphics and the audiograms and the video edits that we make. That allowed me to kind of take a step back and help the business grow operationally and sales wise. So, with the NFL, it's been my idea with the NFL, and full court was to try and have me manage the check down account, which is a subsidiary account of the NFL. And I'm still doing part time with the check down, and still doing full court. So I mean, we'll see how that happens in a few months, if I'm able to kind of make that transition and combine them. But for now, it's still kind of doing the part-time NFL and full court. But it's gotten easier this year because of that change when I actually, felt like I created a business rather than just doing freelance work.
Yeah, what kind of freelancers, what do you look for in a freelancer when they join your team?
Yeah, so the biggest thing there's there's 2 big things that I always look for: a freelancer or an intern. Same goes for Middletech. Anybody that I come into contact with that wants to work for me or work with me, you got to be proactive and you got to have. I'm sorry. You got to be proactive and you have to be ambitious, right? It's not a sense of, if you make great videos, awesome. You know what I mean? Like we can take you on, but I don't want it. I don't want you on the team unless you're willing to kind of take that extra step, be ambitious, and think about how to solve problems before it happens, right? And so with Laura, she was an awesome student at UK. She was pretty raw when she came in, wanted to understand, wanted to learn. And if you guys check out her first videos with Rayvon, one of our clients, to where she is now, the jump has been monumental. She's learned how to do different things, add overlays, captions, all that great stuff that really makes social videos kind of work. With Lakia, she was a baller already. You know what I mean? She's been in the game for 6, 7 years now, from Pikeville to UK, and then just now she's just, she has probably maybe 7 or 8 different freelance jobs that she does. Just an absolute workhorse. And then with Ethan, the guy's mindset, the attitude, just being able to contribute right away. Look for solutions, like I said, before there's a problem that comes up. Really big.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about some of the challenges you face starting this business. So, I think one of the things we really want to do with this new Spotlight series is shine light on the realities of building a business, especially here in this region. So, I know that social media is a tricky thing anyway. You've obviously become very versed in it, but talk about some of the challenges that are specific to starting a social media company, and then just in general challenges that you've run into.
Yeah, we've talked to a lot of founders here on the podcast. I've listened to a bunch of the episodes, and understanding mental health is very tough to manage. And then I'm not saying that running a social media company adds on to that or makes it harder, but it definitely doesn't make it easier, right? I mean, social media, we're all consumed by content every day, and my job is to find the best content out there, repost it, replicate it, and make sure that that does it for 10 different brands that are under the Full Court umbrella right now. So really the biggest thing for me has just been finding that balance between working on social media and then consuming as just personally. And I find myself a lot of times at night uh, giving myself an excuse to scroll longer, because I've been working all day on social and I'm not really like enjoying the content that I'm consuming. And so I've been struggling with that a lot lately, which is kind of the tough part about it. Like I said, I mean, curation is simply just scrolling social to find pieces of content that'll match for any given brand. And so I do a lot of that. And personally, it's like, you get into kind of a rut. I can't remember, there's an exact term where you just give yourself an excuse later at night to stay up and watch it. Like I'm
Doom
falling.
scrolling, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. And I find myself just like one eye open, barely awake, but still just scrolling on
Yeah.
TikTok. Just like I need like 1 or 2 minutes. No, but that's a tough thing about running a social media company, right? Because I gotta be versed in it. I gotta understand what trends are happening. Like if there's a new cap cut trend on TikTok, how can we take advantage of that with 3 or 4 different brands that we use that kind of style with? If there's a new sound that we can utilize, that goes with, for example, like if there's a Lex Exotic sound that I'm looking up, that goes through different cars, how do I attach to that brand? So that's kind of been the biggest struggle, is finding that personal versus work social media time.
Yeah, I noticed that when I started trying to create more serious content on my own
Mm,
personal channels. It's easy to, I don't know if burnout is the right word because I haven't even done it that long, but it changes your relationship with social media.
yeah,
So it's like once you add that professional layer to it,
yeah.
it definitely is a whole nother ball
That
game.
that burnout too. I mean, I've definitely felt it. I know I'm speaking to the choir with a bunch of founders right now. But I mean, tell you guys, waking up. Obviously, my wife works at 7 a.m., which is a great thing actually, because it gets me up, gets me out of bed, gets me to the gym. But then for the time I get to the office at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock, I'm not stopping working until probably 8:30 or 9 p.m. Just constantly going through meetings. Something might pop up with Middle Tech, like a content idea or something that we're doing with an event or whatever. Then full court, my mind has 10 different brands constantly going every single day, and then people from those brands, you guys, Jeremy over at Lex Exotics, Aaron at Walkthrough Plans, like there's people reaching out to me every single day trying to get to me to understand, okay, hey, I see this, or I have an idea for this. That becomes super overwhelming. Right?
Yeah, I bet.
And I mean, there's days where it's like you go through like 20 emails, like 30 different Slack messages, 10 different edits on 4 different pieces of content, over the course of of 2 hours. And that's where I'm just like, oh my gosh, just get burnt out.
Yeah.
Right. And it's been exhausting. And pairing that with working 30 hours a week for the NFL has just been tough, man. And it's just candidly, it's like, uh, yeah, I like to think that I'm doing it and it's gonna pay off at some point. But right now, I understand the process, but it just sucks.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, let's flip it the other way. What about some success stories, milestones you guys have hit, things you're proud of?
Yeah,
We can
man.
talk about.
And like I said, this year we've really flipped the script. The biggest there's two things that I'm really proud of. The first one being when we went to randomly just met Jeremy Delk. He owns Lex Exotics, part owner of Walkthrough Plans, Griffin executive. This guy's a serial entrepreneur. Met him off of a whim in February. Took over his accounts and pretty much launched all of those accounts. And Lex Exotics specifically, we went from zero to about 60,000 followers across channels in this matter of 3 months, right? And it was funny because I just looked at the Facebook engagement for the last month today for Lex Exotics. We've had like 13 million impressions, 10 or 7 million engagements, and then I think 500,000 profile visits. So I was like, these are stupid numbers, but understanding like, okay, the brand is so easy to get in front of because it's about awesome cars, Ferraris, Lambos, BMWs, all that great stuff. Is super easy to attract that kind of stuff. But then another thing that and then opposite of that, the second brand I'm super proud of, and this isn't necessarily part of Full Court, it's part of Miltech, is Develop Lex, right? We've been able to see interactions, engagement, following all jump. I mean, 200, 300% compared to this time year over year. And, seeing the community that we've built around Lexington with that brand, being able to, work with Ross and Weston to understand what's happening in Lexington and how we can continue to grow, not just the outer view of Lexington, but like internally, how we can build up a community that wants to see this thing grow in the right way. So those are two of the brands that I'm super proud of. And then, yeah, just with Full Court, being able to switch from a freelancer to now a manager of 4 people, that's been super rewarding as well, right? Just being able to help people out financially, invest in them, watch their content continue to improve. We've just had another team event at TNL, so hanging out with people physically and just like having a team that's kind of my team, you know what I mean? That's been awesome.
And talk about, this is a tech podcast here. How do you leverage technology, especially with generative AI these
Yeah.
days? What kind of tools are you seeing that you're excited to leverage?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we've all dabbled in Chat GPT, and all of my content ideas, and whether it's a content type or a different strategy, like I always put into Chat GPT, and it pops out 10, 15 different ideas that I can continue to work with. That has you know. Uh, with Less Exotic specifically, and then Walkthrough Plans, those two brands have been really. I'm sorry, ChatGPT has been really useful with those two brands, helping me understand kind of what type of cars, the specs behind all the cars, how it can be used, or what kind of what the difference is between kind of architecture and real estate development, how those can mesh in a content type with walkthrough plans. So yeah, ChatGPT has been huge, and honestly, like that's one thing that I have to really improve on is understanding AI. We've used Descript a lot, obviously. Understanding the transcription process and how AI can be utilized there. Using Notion, understanding to write copy. Um, Me personally, though, like I need to do a better job of making sure that I'm utilizing all the things that we're talking about on Miltech.
Yeah. And, speaking of leveraging technology, that's, a big part of how you scale a business like what you're doing, being able to make it more efficient, being able to, automate a lot of different tasks that you're doing. Talk a little bit about what the future for Full Court looks like. How are you planning on scaling this business? What's the overall, vision for what you want to turn Full Court into?
Yeah, man, and it's funny because I just met with the financial advisor over at Abri. Shout out Zach Wallace. He's killing it. We had this conversation yesterday, or it was Tuesday, understanding what we wanted Full Court to look like, in 2, 3 years. And man, like I said, going into this year, it was really understanding what it takes to kind of be a manager and operationally how we can grow Full Court. I think heading into next year, scaling it with sales, and then building out the processes for different styles of brands. So Full Court Social was built because we wanted to really dive into the sports world, right? Entertainment, sports. That's kind of what my niche was, and I knew how to accelerate in that niche. Now, I couldn't just jump right into that. No, no NBA team's gonna hire me right away. But being able to kind of experience, like, we had a construction brand, like, remodeling brand with Boone, having this Lex Exotics brand, having Griffin Executive, a security brand. I'm starting to understand how to create content and processes for each niche. And I think the biggest thing for me is once I scale sales, I'll need, probably 3 or 4 different TJs, at least TJ in 2022, who was executing, publishing, engaging, all that stuff to make sure that they're kind of in their own brand. So like if we're doing like a construction company or construction niche or real estate niche, I think Full Court can touch them all. But the biggest thing is making sure we get the processes down right, and figure out what kind of help we need for any given brand. And so I did get an okay on another client today. I don't know if I can say the name yet, so I won't say it right now, but that one's going to change Full Court a lot. I'll tell you guys after the podcast, and hopefully it's official on Monday when I sign the contract. But that one's going to hopefully put me in the niche, sports niche like I wanted to, right? So yeah, and I'll maybe comment when we get some content out from this, but super excited about that one.
That's awesome, man. Well, you're absolutely crushing. I think we can't end this podcast without talking about how awesome of a job you've done with Middle Tech and with Develop Lex.
Thank you.
Middle Tech back when it was just Evan and I and Nate and a few others before we actually brought TJ on. We had like no social media presence. We had a little bit, but we just had no idea what we were doing.
The amazing orange feed.
I was like self-conscious.
Shout out Nate.
All orange feed. Yeah. And I mean, it really just goes to show like having somebody come in that's experienced with it, what it can do to a brand. I mean, it's really social media like has transformed Middle Tech at this point. It's grown our audience significantly. It's allowed us to grow our sponsorships and everything. And that's largely due in part to you and Full Court.
I remember when you were in New York City and you were coming back, and I heard you were coming back. I was like, our boy needs to join Middle Tech immediately.
Yeah, so man. No,
it
and
worked out.
I appreciate you guys. Like when I first came on, it was that was your baby. That was Nate's baby. Logan had been on there for a year and a half now, so I know he was super passionate about it, and it was really tough. I mean, when you're giving up like social and pretty much how you represent your brand is on social media, right? And so giving me that freedom to kind of take over and obviously work congruently with you guys, but being able to understand how to operationally run a social media brand, I wouldn't be here without, that freedom that you guys gave me and the ability to understand how to do that with Middle Tech.
Yeah. Well, it's all worked out for the best, and here we are. So before we wrap this up, though, if anyone's listening and they're interested in reaching out to you about your services or learning more about Full Court, where can they do so? Yeah,
I mean, hit me up at tj@fullcourtsocial.com. I'd love to talk to anybody. Another thing that has that I've grown in is networking, right? Grabbing coffee, getting a drink with somebody. I love it. I don't care if we work together at all, but I'm really interested in growing my network here in Lexington and building up the community like we talked about earlier. So tj@fullcourtsocial.com. You can go to my website, fullcourtsocial.com. Made it pretty easy, and follow us on all platforms. You'll find some funny meme and CapCut trends on our socials. So hit me up.